I say good afternoon to all of you. And just as Quentin said, my name is Dr. Oluwole Ario. That's one of the coolest names in life. So I'm the director and the principal investigator of Environmental Justice Institute at Allen University. And I'm also an associate professor of biology. So I'm a partner institution colleague of Carolina Center of Alzheimer's Disease and Minority Research that is also called CCADMR. So I would like to welcome you folks once again to this seminar for today. And the seminar is entitled Building a Training Program to Diversify the Academy in Alzheimer's Disease Research, Lesson Learned about Training and Mentorship. You could have heard, for those of you that came earlier, some of the good commendation that was being passed across to Christiana Johnson. So Christina is going to be one of our speakers today. And of course, Dr. Lucy Ingram is also going to be one of the speakers. So we have two speakers for today. So Dr. Ingram is an associate professor in the Department of Health Promotion, Education and Behavior. And also she is the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs and Online Education in Arnold School of Public Health at the University of South Carolina. She conducts research that is designed to ameliorate and ultimately eliminate racial and ethnic health inequalities with a particular focus on sexual and reproductive health. So using the community-based participatory research method, she's been able to do this very well and building infrastructure to promote health equity research. So Ms. Johnson, who is the second speaker, is a doctoral candidate in the Department of Health Promotion, Education and Behavior in the same Arnold School of Public Health at University of South Carolina. Our research focuses on reproductive and maternal health at the intersections of race, gender, and class. So today, Dr. Ingram and Ms. Johnson will be sharing lessons learned about mentorship and training diverse scholars in aging based on extant literature and CCADMR scientists and mentor experiences. So please, I want you guys to join me in welcoming these two powerful speakers that we have in front of us today. And then if you can just put your hands together, that would be great.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Thank you so much, Dr. Ario. That is one of the coolest names ever, so I second that. Very good. Next slide, please. Okay, so thank you again to all of you for being here and to Dr. Ario for that lovely introduction. I am Lucy Ingram, and I'm pleased to be presenting today with doctoral candidate, Ms. Christiana Johnson, about the lessons that we have learned from our 4-year-plus-old National Institute on Aging funded Carolina Center on Alzheimer's Disease and Minority Research, also known as CCADMR. Next slide. Today, we will begin with a background to orient you to the mission of the CCADMR, which is to increase the capacity of underrepresented minority and minoritized or URM scholars to advance the science on the sociocultural, behavioral, and environmental factors that influence Alzheimer's disease and related dementias, or ADRD, so I'll be using that acronym as well, in order to reduce ADRD-related disparities with a particular interest in African Americans. The center is also devoted to advancing the science of ADRD research, which we will discuss in the training portion of the presentations today. And lastly, we aim to achieve this mission through creating interdisciplinary, co-mentoring
Lucy, you may have frozen. I wonder if we turn off the camera,
yeah,
it might work better.
Good idea. I'm gonna do that. Yeah, good.
All right. Oh, I think she's back.
Oh no, I promise we made sure the connection was working.
That's okay. That's okay. And maybe, sometimes we turn the cameras off if it gets delayed. But you're
Yeah.
back. That's all that matters.
Great. So next slide, please. Okay, perfect. So our presentation today will be based on our published works that Sue mentioned there, and you'll see represented here. Thank you. Next slide. All right. So Alzheimer's disease and related dementias, or ADRD, have risen to the forefront of the U.S. public health agenda due to their tremendous human and financial burden. Regarding age and race population projections in the U.S., 45% of non-whites in our country will be age 65 or older by the year 2060, and the ADRD population is projected to increase to about 14 million adults by the year 2050. Now, given these statistics alone, we certainly should be preparing ourselves for the needed focus on aging and ADRD-related research. When we examine further by race and ethnicity, we find a disproportionate burden of ADRD among racially minoritized communities. For instance, we see rates of ADRD as 1.5 times higher in older Blacks compared to whites. We also find that ADRD deaths among Blacks has increased by nearly 100% from the years 1999 to 2004, compared to just over 50% increase among whites over the same time period. Also, we find that African Americans are at notably higher risk of ADRD diagnosis than are non-Hispanic whites. When we examine data from our own state at ages 65 and older, African American South Carolinians are 45% more likely to have ADRD Hispanic white county. Please. When we examine the racial and there are a number of solutions that are offered to address the aforementioned inequities. The thread involves enhancing research infrastructure. One recent example of this is a report that was published in 2019 described on age. First, the experts discussed the need to prioritize the study of racial and ethnic disparities as essential for achieving equity in healthy aging and dementia care. Second, they expressed a need to address the systems and infrastructure that foster research in aging disparities. To further cement this focus, the National Institute on Aging, also known as NIA, has part of their research agenda to improve and increase training, including for individuals who are members of underrepresented populations and of different career levels of scholars who conduct health disparities research in AD or ADRD. Next slide, please. We have a funding agency that has established a clear need to focus research on exams for underrepresented minoritized scholars, a priority area. Now, how then do we execute this call to action? While this is a laudable goal, training programs have been in existence for decades. But what are the data regarding their success, or what are the lessons learned from those programs to help ensure success for others who are also devoted to this work? So you'll see here in this table, research has shown a number of noted barriers to enhancing research infrastructure. These are here and range from things such as inequities and grant support that have been received to help scholars conduct disparities research. We also see underrepresented scholars having limited engagement in scientific communities because, as many of us here know, team science is an important facet of consistent success in a particular focal area, and reports of substantial teaching and service loads for our URM scholars. A systematic review conducted regarding mentoring programs for minoritized faculty in academic medical centers concluded that a lack of mentoring is an important factor in explaining lower rates of success with R01 funding, that's kind of our gold standard top tier funding from the National Institutes of Health, and also in particular among promotion regarding minoritized faculty. data that indicates that URM faculty represented only 24% of all faculty at post-secondary institutions just 5 years ago. We see that Black researchers in particular were 10% less likely to be awarded R01s compared to whites, and that in South Carolina, 78% of full-time faculty members at South Carolina public universities are white. We find that these next slide.
I think we may have missed a bit on the last slide. I don't know if Lucy, if you turn your camera off, if that helps with anything or not with the, I don't know.
We'll try that.
We'll try. Okay, I hear you perfectly. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So about our center, let's see. We can go to the next slide. Thank you. So about our center, our fearless multiple principal investigator team of Sue Lefkoff and Daniela Friedman, wave your hands, thank you, submitted the center grant proposal in July of 2017, and our team was funded in September of 2018. We are currently in our final year of funding, and our new fearless MPI team of Sue Lefkoff and Swan Adams have submitted our renewal application, which you heard right from Sue's mouth today, for another 5 years of funding. So we are very hopeful that we'll see another 5 years into the future for CADMR. About the structure, we are known as an AD RICMAR, and so that stands for an Alzheimer's disease focused resource center for minority and aging research. And our center is one of 18 RICMARs and one of 8 of these centers that are specifically focused on Alzheimer's disease. Next slide. This graphic represents our statewide partnership. Important to note about our center, which is slightly unique across the other funded RICMARs, is our partnership with several of our state's historically Black colleges and universities, or HBCUs. We are pleased to have faculty colleagues who represent Allen University, thank you, Dr. Aria, Claflin University, Dr. Bagazra, and South Carolina State University, Dr. McQuarrie Quarles. We also have Clemson University and MUSC represented as partners with Dr. Cheryl Dye and Dr. Marvella Ford as our faculty colleagues who represent those institutions. And these folks are known as partner institution principal investigators, and they help us to recruit talented scholars to become part of the center, among other responsibilities. Next slide. This image here is to orient you a bit to our structure. Our MPIs are seated in what is called the administrative core, and we also have an analysis core where our co-investigators James Harden, Adams and Miller develop training opportunities and statistical analysis, and they also help, very importantly, guide our scholars in all things analysis for their pilot projects. And then we have the training and the mentorship that we'll discuss today, which is seated within the core known as the research education component. Next slide. Now about the training. An essential facet of our training is to provide grant support for scholars conducting work that aligns with our center's mission. Each year, we have a call for proposals for 12-month pilot projects where scholars can request up to $30,000 of funding. And each year, we award up to 3 of these funding opportunities. And I'd like to report we have just awarded our final 3 pilot project awards under our current funding cycle. And these persons include Dr. Jin-Kai Wei of University of South Carolina here in our School of Public Health, Dr. Christine Phillips of Clemson, and also Dr. Lu Shi, also of Clemson University. And here you can see our application requirements and review criteria. Next slide. Here then is a screenshot of our call for proposals. And as you can see a bit here, we erred on the side of over communicating details, and that was certainly learned over the years in refining our guidelines and making sure that we can be responsive and anticipate any questions that potential scholars would have. The final page of the call for proposals that you can't see actually also includes the contact information for a variety of our team members in case potential applicants still do have any questions beyond this written guidance. Okay, next slide. Regarding how we've done distributing our pilot project funding, 15 pilot project proposals, and that is 3 per grant year, which was our goal, have been funded. 73% of scientists are female, 40% are Asian, 33% are Black, 20% are white, and 7% are Latin. Brief written progress reports from the pilot project principal investigators are required quarterly. Project updates are given during the project year, and we allow scientists to do that during some of our monthly seminars. And then an important requirement of our CADMR sciences is to submit a manuscript at the end of the 1-year project period that is focused on their pilot project proposal. Next slide. Thank you. Another key component of our training is our Health Disparities and Minority Aging Research Seminar Series. The series is focused on ADRD health disparities, aging among racially minoritized groups, cognitive aging, population-based data, and also professional development. And we currently host all seminars virtually, thanks to everyone's very quick transition to learning to continue to connect in the midst of COVID. And that also affords us the opportunity to record and also archive all of our seminars on our CADMR website for later viewing. Next slide. This table gives you a snapshot of the content of the seminars, the number of sessions of that type of content, and the number of attendees across our 4+ years of existence as a center. And I have to say, we are quite pleased. A lot of times we get in the weeds and we do all the things, right, that we had proposed and planned and are passionate about doing. But when we see these numbers, and thanks to Dr. Adams for sharing during the proposal writing process, it really does bring credence to the fact that we are really continuing to do great work in terms of connecting with folks who are interested in this content. So as you can see here, we've had a variety of different sessions that are offered by the different content areas, and you see in italics there under each type of session name some examples of titles of the different seminars. Okay, next slide, please. Now I'll turn things over to Christiana, who will share information about our mentorship approach.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think I'll err on the side of caution and keep my video off as well. It seems to be working well that way. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about the CADMR's training program's mentorship approach. So it's widely known that mentorship can play a critical role in the advancement of academic careers, and that can happen through a multitude of methods, but particularly in a supportive environment, mentorship helps to propel academic trajectories. In the CADMR research training program, each scientist is assigned 3 mentors. Mentors are selected based on the scientist's proposed 3-page research plan to enhance their aging, ADRD, methodological, and health disparity knowledge base. And mentoring teams are interdisciplinary, with at least one mentor having research experience in the social and behavioral aspects of ADRD. And then additional mentors on the mentoring team typically have expertise in methods and analysis or in another subject area that's relevant to the proposed research plan. Next slide, please. Potential mentors are usually mid-career or senior faculty from the from one of the CADMR partner institutions that Dr. Ingram presented on, shared earlier. CADMR leadership provides the prospective mentors with information describing mentorship responsibilities and expectations, which they later agree upon through the completion of the mentorship agreement form. Throughout the program, the center's leadership meets with scientists and mentors separately to assess the scientist and mentor relationship and provide suggestions on additional support if necessary. Additionally, an external evaluator interviews each scientist and mentor to learn about their experiences with the goal of improving overall center processes. Next slide. Here's an example of, or a screenshot, I should say, of the mentorship agreement form. As you can see in the center, there are 3 bullet points that describe the expectations of a CADMR mentor. Some of the expectations include guiding the scientists to develop their career plan, participating in regular meetings with the scientists, and participating in quarterly meetings with the CADMR leadership. Next slide. Here's the second page, a screenshot of the second page of the mentorship agreement form that's highlighting the scientists' milestones and expectations while they're in the program. And so there are a total of 5 milestones that are tracked by CADMR leadership, and I'll talk about that in a few. And these milestones include proposal revisions, career individual development plans, progress reports, presentations, and workshops, and then manuscript submissions. Next slide. So with respect to the mentorship evaluation plan, CADMR leadership implemented a digital tracking system to track scientists' productivity, which was later used in the development of a paper that I had the pleasure of lead authoring on under the wonderful mentorship of the CADMR leadership, titled Reflections on Mentorship from Scientists and Mentors in an Alzheimer's Disease-Focused Research Training Program. This was a mid-course evaluation of data that was collected from scientists and mentors between fall of 2020 and spring of 2021. There were 2 aspects to this evaluation. The first aspect was to collect a purposive sample of scientists and mentors. They were asked to complete a 3-item survey about their race and ethnicity, the academic rank, and career successes from participating in the CADMR program. The second component of the evaluation was the 60-minute qualitative interviews that was conducted with both CADMR scientists and mentors, and that was conducted by an external evaluator. Scientists were asked a total of 25 questions related to their perceptions about the program, their project experience in the relationship with their mentors, and their career development. And then mentors were asked 10 questions that explored their perceptions regarding their scientists' scholarship development and progression, their goals as a mentor, reflections on their center's goals to enhance scientist involvement and in ADRD research. There were a total of 19 mentors and 12 scientists that were contacted to participate in the 60-minute interviews. However, 5 mentors and 6 scientists participated in the evaluation. Next slide. So our evaluation and qualitative interview instruments were guided by the National Center of Leadership in Academic Medicine's faculty development model. Oh, that's a mouthful, which I'll refer to as NCLAM. And it has been demonstrated by prior researchers to demonstrate success in mentoring underrepresented minority faculty through a structured program. And so this model was developed from a survey that they administered to junior faculty, and they asked them to report on 3 things. They asked them to identify the top 3 factors they attributed to their career success. They asked them to describe their role of mentoring in their career success. And they asked them to select the top 3 National Center, the top 3 NCLAM components that have most impacted their career trajectory. And this framework really highlights the importance of overlapping needs, such as mentoring, networking, professional skills and development, all things that are really instrumental for understanding the institutional culture and academic productivity, which then leads to success. Extending from this approach, the CADMR training program used a team-based approach to help develop scholars' research in ADRD disparities, which allows scientists to tap into a variety of perspectives of knowledge from multiple mentors that all have experience and expertise in differing backgrounds. Next slide, please. So here from that 3-item survey, we asked scientists to report on their milestones and accomplishments from participating in the CADMR program. We have that 3 scientists reported they were promoted with tenure to associate professor. 3 scientists reported that they were making steady progress on their project manuscripts and identified funding for which they will apply to build on this work. 3 scientists reported that they published manuscripts on their projects in notable journals. And then other accomplishments include being named chair, serving on a RICMAR panel, presenting at national aging meetings, and securing extramural funding. And I should note that these are just the reported accomplishments of the interview participants. There were a total of 42 publications that were reported for all scientists in the training program at this time. Next slide, please. So findings of the qualitative interview for perspectives from the scientists, there were many things that emerged, but the most salient I'll touch on here. So challenges with obtaining data, time management, and analysis. So one scientist states, I had challenges with obtaining data. So actually, even up until today, I haven't received the data that I proposed in the beginning. But one of my mentors has suggested that I looked at the Alzheimer's disease registry data to see if I could do some preliminary analysis. This quote was used to highlight the unanticipated length of time that was to gain access to the data sets needed for their pilot projects. Scientists who could not gain access to their data as outlined in a pilot grant often needed to modify their data collection strategy and project aims, or even switch data sets completely. For the theme seminars for building academic skills, through the seminar, scientists from different institutions also had the opportunity to network with each other. So in these seminars, there were opportunities to have conversations, present preliminary research, share presentations, things of that nature. And scientists overwhelmingly viewed the seminars as helpful. And some even expressed interest in attending the seminars following the completion of their projects. And that was demonstrated by the quote, I had a pilot project and my part has ended, but I'm still participating in some of the monthly educational seminars that they have and whatever events they have. For the theme, working and communicating with mentors, most scientists described how each mentor offered some different type of support. Sometimes they would rely on their mentors to either encourage them when they were hesitant about their work, or just kind of help them get over the hump when they felt that they were stuck. This is demonstrated by the quote, they'd say, oh, good job. And next time, let's talk about this, this, and this. It was helpful to get communication from the mentors because even though I could not do things on my own, it felt good to be supported and that they wanted me to succeed. Additional themes included career development, which was coded to demonstrate when the scientists were asked how the program helped with their career development. They were asked how the program helped with career development. They expressed specific benefits, such as learning how to work with big data or large data sets and investigating health disparities, both which they wanted to pursue in the future or never had previous experience with. And for a project experience and professional development, each of the scientists, some of the scientists shared that they were generally satisfied with the progress or completion of their project. And in fact, for many of the participants, as I shared, this was the first time that they had ever used large national data sets or conducted secondary data analysis. Next slide, please. So for perspectives from the mentors, I'll also present the most salient themes here. The first theme experiences interacting with scientists. We have a quote that states, we didn't have a lot of mentoring team meetings in the first year as much as we're having now, but if you're not in regular communication, then if something changes for a project, then and you're caught off guard, nobody should be in that position where a mentor is caught off guard by something, and or a mentee sees that there's a reaction because they haven't been in touch. Here, mentors shared the importance of communication, which was highly acknowledged when mentors were asked about their goals as a mentor. While most expressed that they saw their role to be an encouraging support, others felt that the lack of communication between them and their scientists made it difficult to be a supportive resource at times. But it's important to note that this was during the peak of the COVID-19 outbreak, causing all CADMR participants to pivot their forms of communication. When asked about the program's success in recruiting a racially and ethnically diverse sample of scientists, mentors addressed the importance of understanding minority groups in the program by suggesting opportunities for recruitment and collaboration with organizations such as the Black Faculty Caucus at the University of South Carolina. In response to this approach to diversifying the program, a mentor shares, we are putting extra work on people who are already burdened and busy and have the responsibilities that they have. I think the overburden piece is also something that has come up. It is something we need to think about. When thinking about their perspectives on the scientists, when thinking about the perspectives on scientists' challenges, mentors expressed that scientists had some difficulties with time management and balancing their project activities with other responsibilities, which was most salient with the HBCU partners who tended to have a heavier teaching load. A mentor states, with our HBCU partners, there's a high teaching load expectation with respect to teaching. It's harder for them to get out of the research deliverables. Interestingly enough, one of the emerging themes from the scientists was the possibility of a conversation to discuss buying out teaching time so that they could fully participate in research programs such as the CCADMR's training program. Additional themes included ideas for effective mentoring, which suggests that mentors should be flexible in their and establish their expectations and working expectations at the beginning. And for CCADMR programmatic qualities, mentors expressed that that the scientists were receiving great benefits, such as having access to data sources, learning skill sets that were brand new, and access to an ADRD network of scholars, and appreciated that this training opportunity allowed scientists to propose a variety of research questions. Next slide. In summary, it's important to note that this was a mid-course evaluation with the goal of improving and modifying the CCADMR training program based on the current experiences of mentors and scientists. Evaluations in the future will be used to assess career trajectories and successes over time. Findings from this paper suggest that it may be beneficial to expand, one of the larger findings from this paper suggests that it may be beneficial to expand the program length beyond just 1 year, so that beyond 1 year, as much time can be spent waiting for the data use approval. Again, with the caveat that we were in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, so there was a lot of transition. Ultimately, the CCADMR team will use the results to enhance the training experience for future grant years. Next slide. As we wrap, in conclusion, from both papers, we have learned that the research workforce in ADRD research includes insufficient representation of investigation from diverse racial and ethnic backgrounds. The key components of the CCADMR training program is designed to address the problem of underrepresentation and has deemed to be successful. While the evaluation of the program outcomes are outgoing, we believe that the key program elements highlighted here today, the training and mentorship in particular, will continue to contribute long-lasting improvements in the diversity of the aging research workforce. And last but not least, our experience may be a practical resource for others developing interdisciplinary training programs to increase the pipeline of underrepresented scholars conducting ADRD research. Next slide. Here are our references. And Dr. Ingram and I. Thank you so much for your time today. Any questions? Turn my video back on.
Hey, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Huh, I'd like to put my face there, but I can't find the face thing. Anyway, I just wanted to thank you, Christiana. That was just, all I could do was, I hate to say this, I'm sitting here texting Daniela through and saying, oh my God, why didn't I ask Christiana to incorporate this in the proposal I mean, the way you presented it was so perfect with the categories, the thematic categories, as well as the, it's been a while, my brain doesn't hold on to things since we all worked on that paper, but that was beautiful. That was so elegantly, really, just, I just wish I thought about it before.
It's okay. There's plenty of other opportunities coming.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I think Rachel has a question.
I do. Thank you. That was so interesting and useful. I do have a question. I don't know if this is something you all feel like you can comment on. It's a little, but I'm curious about more economic diversity. So sometimes when I'm mentoring students who are from a very low, you have a lot of economic challenges in their lives. It's difficult because sometimes they have many jobs, they have a lot of anxiety related to, paying for rent and food and things like that. I know there's food resources on campus, but it's sometimes hard as a mentor to kind of balance someone spending a lot of time earning money with also making progress on the dissertation and their own research. And anyway, I was just curious if you guys had any thoughts about that and try to how to balance and how to be supportive, but also help students, obviously find ways to address their financial needs, but also help them move along in their program too, so they can graduate and actually make more money as full-time graduates. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rachel, for that comment. And any other question from anybody, please?
I don't know if
Well, maybe,
Lucy, do you want to chat a bit about Rachel's comment or question?
yes, I'll start, and maybe Christiana, you can provide us also a unique experience as a doctoral student, and your experience with being on the student side of the mentorship relationship. So I think that a really great example that Daniela does for our department, kudos to Daniela for the second time today in a meeting, is about sponsorship. And so, mentorship, which is how we traditionally think about how a senior person engages a more junior person, is what Christiana very eloquently described in terms of our relationship that we think about in the CADMR. But an extension of that is sponsorship, right? And so that's about thinking how we can be advocates and we can be part of a network for people who are in our mentorship bubble or circle or basket, if you will. And so sometimes we as mentors don't exactly have the right answers, but we may know someone who knows someone who knows someone. And so I believe thinking beyond kind of what resources can I give this person, it really is an opportunity to maybe think about who do I know who maybe has access to networks that I'm less familiar with, or maybe has this experience with someone who's having challenges that they've described that I'm not as familiar with, who I can connect them to. And so while it's really difficult to kind of be in a space where, gosh, I don't have all the answers, I think we should embrace this opportunity of sponsorship as a way to also guide us when we're helping students and other junior faculty. But Christiana, any additional insights on that?
Truthfully, I asked, like Dr. Ingram said, like if my advisor didn't know, she would reach out and ask somebody else. I think also I know there's a lot of conversation about having the opportunity to like consult, which probably is I think the primary way that a lot of current doctoral students may be like getting additional cash on the side. But I think it comes down to scheduling, right? I have a calendar on my wall that sits in front of me that has deadlines and dates because there's a goal at the end. So, and I also think that I have just been very transparent with my advisor about life, and so I think being understanding, which actually was one of the things that came out of the interviews with the scientists. Like they had advisors that they knew that they could ask anything, and those or mentors, I should say, that they would be able to ask anything. And if those mentors didn't know, then they would reach out to somebody else. And, they wanted to have access to a certain data set that mentor may not have had expertise in. They were able to reach out to them. So it really is about networking and making sure that you're able to communicate clearly and effectively. I think the biggest thing for me too was also realizing that my mentors have been where I'm at. And I think once we kind of get past that hump, it's easier to have that type of conversation. So just transparency and communication.
A few of us went to a training last week, and for those in our department, I'm going to share the resources more widely with faculty, but I think on a different topic, but still related, and it was related to mental health. And I think something that came up, and I'm glad that it did, was exactly that. We don't have to know everything, but to know the people who know the people, because also we're not qualified to help in certain areas. I realize this is different than Dr. Davis's question, but just being able to navigate and know people who can navigate and help in the system to get resources, I think is, just to add on to what you've just said, Christiana. So, and Lucy. Does anyone else want to add from experience? Or I thought that was a really interesting question, Rachel.
Yeah.
Well, this is from Clemson, and I have been on the program as a mentor for a few years. I really enjoyed the program. And I just kind of want to know, moving forward, you said you submit applications for renew the program. So moving forward, what kind of change would you like to have?
Can I talk? Thank you so much for your question. You're included in the revised application. We're just the changes are really just an expansion. We're expanding the schools that we're working with to include 3 public HBCUs in North Carolina. So, that's a major expansion. We're also going to have a track for, right now we just have a focus on these faculty who are ready to submit successful grant applications for the pilot awards. But what we've decided, given our conversations with many of our coordinators from the HBCUs, is that what would be helpful would be a separate track, and we're calling them our CADMR scholars as opposed to the CADMR scientists. And those are people not just from there, they can be from Clemson, MUSU, and U of SC also, but a separate track for those faculty who need more research readiness, who need skills in writing grant proposals. And even though that was part of what we were offering through our webinar series the last period, we wanted to make it a real priority, so that faculty who do want to, make the transition from mostly being teaching to being able to apply for and receive grants. We're going to have special seminar series focused on the kinds of skill sets that they need in order to accomplish that. So I think that's really the 2 major difference in approaches that we're promoting. There are a lot of other, there are a lot of other issues that, we're going to modify, but I think those are really the main ones. Lucy, if you want to chime in on anything else, but I think those are the 2 main ones in response to your question.
No, that sounds good. I would just add that we've also more deliberately identified mentorship training opportunities. So in the past, we've relied on the fact that our mentors have already been seasoned. And so we now have additional resources in place that we've written in that we'll be asking our mentors to be attentive to in terms of additional trainings to also support their mentorship skills.
Good, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other person with any question, any comments? Don't be shy. Well, in the absence of questions and comments, I would just like to ask everyone to join me in giving a round of applause to Dr. Ingram and soon to be Dr. Johnson. Yes, that was a very informative presentation and great questions and responses from everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. And then, so we have a couple of announcements for your information. First, as a way to ensure that we continue to deliver quality, timely, and relevant content, during these seminars, we ask you to complete a brief survey about every experience that you had today. Also, we want you to access the survey. You can scan it. The QR code is going to be seen here very shortly. So you can use that to complete the survey. And then once you are, you complete the survey, once you are emailed a link at the conclusion of the seminar. So please, that's the QR code that you can see there.